Voice of college football getting it after it on a Thursday night with the wholesome one. Here we go. Let's go, folks. Comments, questions, contributions. We will take it all in the live chat. And of course, don't forget to hit the like button. I know you don't agree with everything that either one of us say, but you enjoy the content. So please hit the like button and support us right here at the Voice of College Football. Wholesome one. What's going on tonight?
It's a good day. It's a great, great day. We woke up this morning, great gift from God that we woke up this morning and we made it all the way to this second. So that's always a blessing. Had a great workout in today, great day of work, and made it home safely, man. We had a snowstorm here last night, 6 feet of snow. So we've been, it was really tough driving in that yesterday. So, of course, we drive safe and we pray for the safety. And especially for the homeless and things of that nature, thankful that the state of North Dakota make sure that they have somewhere to go and provide them with food and shelter during this really, really tough time. So although we come here to talk about Miami football, it's always very, very important to be thankful. Be thankful for the little things and the big things that we're blessed with every day.
I've been around for a while, and I've been neighbors to and known certain people that maybe move to a certain part of the country that they're not familiar with, and then they learn, okay, what the weather's like. So I've had that experience a number of times where, I've always been into geography, and I've been to pretty much every area of the country. So if you name a state or a city, I know what to expect in regards to the weather. I've had a lot of people that have moved, near me as a neighbor or whatever, and then it's funny to get the response coming from California, coming from Florida, and they're moving to Connecticut or somewhere and having no idea what to expect in a winter. But I got to tell you, even though I knew it was cold up there, I generally think of, okay, the South and the various levels in the South and how hot it is, or where there are more seasons in the South and in the northern part of the South, and then contrast that to the North. And so I'm currently in Ohio, but there's a whole other level of cold and snow. Like, we've seen snow pretty much twice this year. And it was just a few inches. That's all it was 68 degrees here yesterday. It was 50 today. Like there's a whole other level of cold up there. Like, when I mentioned to my friends in Florida, I'm in Ohio, they're like, oh, it's cold. And it is, but oh man, there's a whole other level to it.
Mark, I will read off to you our weather last week. High of -12, low of -34. 1, 1, 0, 3, 1, 1, 21, 37, 34, 33, -40, -18, -21, -18, -19. That is
Wait
the
a
next
minute.
7 days.
Those, you said those are highs?
Yes, Mark.
Those are with a wind chill. They have to be.
Yes, yeah, of course. They always have the wind chill in these, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Those have to be with a wind chill. Okay.
It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? They looked after me, and the cost of living is beautiful.
Absolutely.
So, everybody always, I get a lot of crap about that, like I remember one guy, Mark, tweeted out when I first started covering Miami and building some connections on Twitter and things of that nature. He goes, y'all are taking Kane's inside information from a dude who's from Fargo, North Dakota. And I'm like, whoa. First, he didn't tag me or anything, and people would at me and things of that nature. I'm like, wow. I'm not from here. Yes, I live here, but I'm not from here. But there's a such thing called the internet. So, and you could make phone calls and have connections with all kinds of people if you properly build those relationships. So,
Absolutely.
it is what it is. So I just brought that up not to even give that person any glory because they just were hating, which is fine. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's interesting to know that we live in a society now where in the 2020s and late 20 teens, someone like me could live here and run an entire YouTube channel for 5 years talking about this, and have only been home, maybe 6 or 7 times in that time span. When be able to break down film and have people respect my opinions, when maybe when you first got into it, that wouldn't have been a big thing. You had to just read articles, and it was usually your local news, your big national game, and maybe a regional game, and that was about it. But now you have people who can cover the sport from all over and really break things down. And we have some great talent out there, some great evaluators of this sport. And I hope that college football continues to do very, very well, man. But we have some pretty good many media members out there that live in all kinds of areas, that travel and cover this great sport.
Well, I'm not quite that old. Don't take me back to my childhood. That was pretty much my childhood. But when I first started in this business in the early '90s, yeah, every football game was on TV. You almost had as much TV coverage as now, not quite as much,
Right.
but it was more about the internet. The internet's changed everything. That is the
Mhm.
big game changer. And when I first was looking for a job, this obviously wouldn't have been possible. You had to have somebody tell you that you were good enough to hire you to put you in a broadcasting position. Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. All right, let's get to the big news of the day. It's only about an hour old. Jason Taylor, who's been on staff, will be on the field as the defensive ends coach, and I believe that makes you and a whole lot of people pretty excited.
Absolutely. News first broke by Canesville, Footballville, D and X over there on the Canesville and Footballville. They cover the University of Miami football program and South Florida sports end of his whole, mostly Dade County. But I want to make sure I give my shout out to them because they were the first people to break the news that he, as in Coach Jason Taylor, has accepted the position. Coach Jason Taylor also had an opportunity to go back to the place where he became a Hall of Famer for the Miami Dolphins and be there as a defensive coach. I don't know specifically where I would expect on the defensive line, or maybe an outside linebackers coach there for their 3-4 attack that they're trying to bring to the table with Coach Vic Fangio. They're coaching their defense, but instead he decided to stay with the University of Miami. Not only stay with the University of Miami, but get a promotion, which is huge. Okay, there comes a point, Mark, where some of the best players may not turn out to be really good coaches, but we've seen that with football kind of turn heads. Okay, you look at Coach Prime and his time at Jackson State and his time at Truth Academy and his time now at Colorado. When it comes to him specifically coaching the cornerbacks, he's done very, very well there. Now you can say he's had some of the best players to do it recently, and Travis Hunter and now Cormani McClain there. But either way, you've seen some really good players come pretty good coaches. Um, you know, I think that Coach Jason Taylor is going to do a very, very good job, man. One of the big things about this Coach Guidry defense is that it has, like we illustrated before, two guys in a 32, in a three technique and a 2-eye technique with their hand in the dirt. The other two guys are standing five techniques and or sevens or wide nines, depending on the tight end alignment, where they're standing up. And this is something that guys like Jason Taylor, guys like Terrell Suggs, guys like Dwight Freeney, those guys that were truly standing up and flying out of that 2-point stance. It's a very unique approach to how to play that position. Okay, historically, I mean LT Lawrence Taylor, historically, excuse me, these guys out of that 2-point stances, it's about that momentum, not really rocking back and forth, but kind of keeping all your power there and firing off that back foot and keeping that heel off the ground, keeping it because that's where you get stagnant and you start to slow down, keeping your heels off of the ground at all times in your stance. And it's just how you strike and how you're supposed to keep your leverage. Because coming out of a stance all the way down and then firing up, now you have to readjust your body. But if you're already in this motion, you have to be able to teach that. Okay, you got to be able to teach to dip the shoulder and teach how you're supposed to move and weave your body and take on blocks and pullers and things of that nature out of a 2-point stance. Whether you want to have your upfield foot up for run support when you're taking on a tight end, or if you want to flip your feet the opposite way where your upfield foot is up, and now we're stepping up the football field and more of a pass rush attempt. So it can get very, very technical as to how we really want to break down a 2-point stance. So having a guy that has done it, not only done it, but one of the greatest to have ever done it as a Hall of Famer teaching that is very good for our young men. coming off the edge for the University of Miami, whether that's blitz and linebackers, whether that's our traditional stand-up defense ends in Coach Gidry's position scheme. So I'm excited for him because there's nothing like being around the young men and getting the promotion at a place that you've been, a place that you're a little familiar with young men that you have worked with. It's a blessed feeling. So I'm happy for him. I hope things really, really work out, and I hope our players show up and show out for him. Okay, because one of the biggest things you want is when guys get retained and guys stick around in them. You want those players not only to speak up for them verbally, but to go out and show it on the football field. Like, I showed up because of insert coach name here and what he has done to help me change how I play, whether he teaches me little things in the film room. Because as a defensive analyst, that's all he really was doing. Yes, he's doing some on-field coaching, but for the most part, it was film, 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 technique, 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 hammering those things home that the head defensive line coach, that the position that the defensive coordinator wants. You are kind of like the middleman between the players and the official coaches, really hammering that kind of stuff home to the young men. You get a chance to spend extra time with them watching film. You get a chance to go to the weight room. You get a chance to go out there on the field with them and really get some one-on-one as an analyst or a student assistant or a grad assistant, where you could really get that one-on-one with the young men. So him getting this promotion to me says that not only did the little things that he did with the players speak for themselves, but him being on time, him being attentive, him being great in the film, as far as really spoke a lot to Coach Cristobal to promote him from within. So I really, really like it. Again, not saying, Mark, we're about to go get 20 sacks and our DN is going second overall and we got a new chase. No, none of that. But either way, we have a really good coach. And I think some of these guys that we're about to get into here can really, really, really benefit from him. One in particular, a guy I've always really, really liked, and that's Cyrus Moss, man. He reminded me of young Coach Taylor, as far as how he played. A young JT, stand up, kind of linky and wiry, never really over 250, but looks real good. Nothing wrong with him, but his arms weren't swole. He ain't, Terrell Suggs 270, 280. But he was in that 240, 250 range as a player, but you didn't want to mess with him because he could still play and come off that line of scrimmage. So I think something like that can be implemented into a guy like Cyrus Moss.
The concern, and I'm going way back, and I'm not talking about concern about Jason Taylor. And I believe, as you've mentioned uh, at the beginning of your portion there, this, I won't call it a myth because there's some truth to it, but it's based on each individual case and whether that great player can transition into a great coach. And that's completely up to them and their ability and their willingness to put in the work and become a great teacher. That is such a great component and a large component of being a great coach. But there was a long-lasting concern, decades ago about great players not becoming great coaches, because the thought was, and I'll take, I'll go way before your time, and I'll go to another sport. The classic example was Ted Williams, maybe the greatest hitter of all time, who wasn't a good baseball manager. The thought was basically that those guys had so much ability and so much skill, so much talent innately, that they could cut corners, and maybe their technique wasn't the greatest because they were just such superior athletes that they maybe didn't know and couldn't relate to, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this skill level, I'm going to have to teach these techniques, these foundational core skills, because I kind of got away with not even executing those myself.
Absolutely. Or, Michael Jordan turned out to be a really horrible GM and things of that nature for the Charlotte team. I don't know what they're called now, Bobcats or whatever. I don't even know if this team is Charlotte anymore, but he was thought of as, because no, they used to be the Pelican. Now they're Pelicans now, aren't they? I'm not a big
I don't
NBA
even
guy.
know.
Yeah,
I
I don't
know they
even
were the
know.
Bobcats. Of course, the Hornets, the Bobcats, and they might be the Pelicans now.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
think they're New Orleans Pelicans. But anyway, I'm saying that to say that that's usually where it comes from. But then there's, like I said, Coach Prime, who was just He was a great technician, but he also was blessed to be 6'1", 200 pounds, the fastest dude on the field too. So, but he also was a great technician, a great studier of the game. Now that's something that you can teach. You can't teach somebody, I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney could go be a defensive ends coach. I don't know. Because when he was at his prime, he's 6'6", 250 pounds, running a 4.45. Okay, and he made one great play and then took him over. But a guy like a JJ Watt, to me, I think would be a great coach because the Charlotte Hornets, okay, because he was a true workaholic. Okay, he was somebody that really turned himself into what he became. As far, yeah, he had the size, but he was a backup tight end at Western Michigan. Okay, he wasn't he walked on to Wisconsin Madison. All right, this wasn't somebody who was some 5-star recruit, number one DN in the country, who's just destroying teams out there as a defensive end. So again, there's an old adage with that, and with the way that coaching has become so specific, where everybody has a specialization and they really want to hone in on that and really show their skills on that. This is something that can really, really take to a different level, in my opinion. Luke Kuechly, that's a great example too, out of Boston College, a true film analysis. Yes, of course, he wasn't a scrub. He ain't out there running a 5.5 and 280 with 30% body fat. No, but he turned all that stuff around. Yes, he's 6'3", 6'4", but he also was a whiz. First off, he got into BC and graduated in 3 years. That should tell you something about the kind of mindset that it took him. You watch this guy play, and he might have had one of the highest IQs I've seen since Ray Ray. I don't know, in a while. He would just call out the play, and you just go, wow. good job, man.
Mm.
Good job, man. So, yeah, again, very, very excited about what's going to come out of that for Miami and for the players at Miami who will rush the passer. It would be something similar to if Ed Reed were to have stayed and become the safeties coach, as far as people being very, very excited to what it could turn into. Now, this year, I really like the fact that it's turned into not about the hype. All right, it's a lot of the Miami Hurricanes fans are in show me mode, Mark, and that's a big thing. Camp starts on Saturday, and we just got our staff fully put together. So, again, we don't operate on Coach Cristobal's, Miami fans don't operate on Coach Cristobal's time, and Coach Cristobal don't operate on the Miami Hurricanes fan base time. When things are going to be put together, he put it together, he built his staff, and now they're going to go out there and try to make these young men as best as they can to go win football games.
As soon as you brought up J.J. Watt, it triggered a back and forth I got into with some Miami fan. I think he's got some kind of platform, but I don't remember who it was because he was upset. He truly believed that Cam Kinchins was the most disrespected player ever by the recruiting rankings, because he just noted he was a 3-star, and he put flat out there, he is the most disrespected player in the history of recruiting. And I went, wow. I said, well, first of all,
okay.
First of all, this is how I look at it, and we may come at it from different places, and that's fine. I don't consider it, unless we get into the minds of each individual scout, I don't consider any ranking disrespectful. They're doing a job. It's not personal. They're not disrespecting anyone. They're basically just evaluating them. So we could go on and on about everybody that's been disrespected. That list is, if you want to call that disrespect, that's a long, long list. But I threw out J.J. Watt immediately. I said, well, first of all, I don't think they're disrespecting him. They just evaluate. That's what they saw, and that's the evaluation they gave him. Number two, J.J. Watt.
Well, I don't necessarily even know if that was disrespectful. He was a good player in a small town, who ended up going to a small institution, wanted better for himself, and left because he's from Wisconsin, is he not?
Yeah.
And he said he went to camps there and things just didn't work out. It wasn't like, and then again, he was a tight end prospect coming out. He was a DN tight end prospect coming out. So I don't even know if I would agree with him being
Oh,
disrespected.
I
But
don't think he was either.
you're
I
just
don't
saying
no,
that
I'm
was your
saying I
instant
don't think
response.
anyone's disrespected. I just think it's an evaluation. It's not a personal
Attack.
attack.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
they're just doing
yeah.
their job. Yeah, I just brought up JJ Watt as being the first person that came to mind as being the most under-evaluated coming out of high school based on what he turned out to be. You're talking about a Hall of Fame pro player who was a two-star.
Right, right. I mean
Yeah,
that
I
that
don't think he
sounds
was
just like Ed
disrespected.
Reed,
Yeah.
but I don't really like to get into the ratings thing because Miami fans would just. Somebody tried to tell me Sean Taylor was a 2-star. Oh God, he's Mr. Florida, but he's a 2-star. Anyway, I'm not getting into that because then we'll get into the whole 3-star. 3-star from South Florida or 3-star from Florida, 5-star anywhere else. I do believe at one point that might have been true. But again, I believe that it's so much. I mean, we got like 5, 6, 7 different services. Some of them deliberately put out, in my opinion, deliberately put out certain rankings to get a buzz and get the flow on Twitter and things of that nature. Um, so again, Cam Kitchens, yes, he was rated as a 3-star coming out of high school. Yes, he played in a very, very talent-rich place like Miami, and I get that 100%. But at the same time, he's not the fastest in the world. He's not the tallest in the world. He's not the biggest in the world. And that it turned out that he showed it on a football field, which is most important. People's opinions and question marks is a whole bunch of hoopla. Eventually, if you go out there and make enough plays, they'll write about how they were so wrong about you. So, it doesn't really matter. There are plenty of times, Mark, we've seen people get hired and oh man, why would insert school here hire this coach? That guy, he sucks. Or he comes from the FCS, or he comes from the Group 5, or he came from HBCU. Well, if you go and win enough games, they'll go home. Well, you know what? I was wrong about this defensive coordinator. He's doing a very job at the school, and we can't wait to see how well he gets. So again, I know you just were bringing that up, and I really think that Cam Kitchens was definitely looked down upon, but he went out there and made plays from his first tackle against Alabama in 2021 to a All-American season as a sophomore, and then continuing to build on that going into he's going into his junior season at Miami. Whoa. Man, time just pick up and run on you, huh, Mark? Sweet
It
Lord.
does.
I remember doing
I
his
can tell you that.
class breakdown, man. Wow. And he's theoretically a year away from being evaluated by NFL teams at a combine. It's interesting.
And I'm not even saying that a young man shouldn't use that as motivation. If that's what
Correct.
motivates them and they believe I'm better than that, they disrespected me and they underrated me and take that as motivation, that's phenomenal. Well, I guess we start segueing Jason Taylor to who he's going to coach at the defensive end position and your evaluation of what he's got to work with and maybe who would be the top of the line of what he could get the most out of.
Yeah. I think that this conversation, as far as defensive ends at the University of Miami, recently Miami's had some good success at defensive end. Now it's still spring ball. And the main thing you really want for spring ball is to really get a chance to implement your scheme, get some nice bodies out there, and stay healthy all the way through. Those are main 3 things you're looking for in spring. Great competition. Because man, you don't even have your full team out together just yet, Mark. You got some young men who are summer session A, summer session B. So we got training camp that's still months and months away. So you really want these young men to come out healthy and fired up and play a great brand of practice. Okay. I'll put it at that. But when it comes to what Jason Taylor can do, Coach Jason Taylor can do for the defensive ends at Miami, there's a couple guys that I think shoot to the top of the list. I spoke about him already a little bit, and that's Cyrus Moss again. 6'6", 215. top 6 at his position as an edge rusher coming out of Bishop Gorman, a big time program out there on the western side of America. I usually say West Coast, but Arizona isn't the West. Nevada is not the West Coast, so I can't say that. But the western part, the southwest part of the country. Everybody wanted him. He's a young man that you just can't wait to get in your program, put a bunch of weight on him, give him a bunch of protein shakes, and put a bunch of peanut butter jelly sandwiches and bananas in them, and have them power clean and benching 300-400 pounds a couple seasons in. Okay, this year he took kind of a late red shirt to where he was able to put it on after a while and hopefully just keep getting him in that weight room and keep building and building and building and building and see where he can go. The reason why I go straight to him is out of that 2-point stance, I really think he did his best work because they run a 3-3-4, they run a 3-3-5 at Bishop Gorman, which kind of looks like a 3-4, and he was a stand-up outside linebacker kind of guy off the weak side, Mark, and sometimes off the strong side. Where he's splitting the difference between tight ends and tackles and in linemen, wide receivers and tackles. Okay, he's an open field sometimes, but when it was time to rush the passer, he's getting after the quarterback. I think that's somebody that he can really work hand on with and take to a different level, in my opinion. Another guy that I think is really, really going to take a step under him, Nigel Kelly, man. Whew. You talk about a first step, Mark, at 6'4", 6'5". He can get off that football. He can get off of that football. Okay. Nicely, very long-armed young man. Now we got to get his hand placement and going for the upfield shoulder, keep it contained, all those little things. But as far as the intangibles, what you bring to the table, those two guys specifically. Now, yes, I started out with the young guys. We'll get to the Messidors and things of that nature who had a really good season last year. But I'm talking about these two young guys. And I have another two who are early enrollee that just got to Miami that I can't wait to get to. But those two guys to me showed a little something last year, especially Kelly. Kelly had those 4 sacks, a couple of TFLs. His first sack was kind of a trip sack against Cookman. But you saw the makings of a young man that can really do some damage with how he gets off of that football, how he has great want to, Mark. This time you see him running down the field 20 yards to push a guy out of bounds. Now, he does jump off sides against Georgia Tech and learn from that. He does have some he gets the backfield against Jordan Travis, gets juked. Okay, these things happen when you're a young pass rusher getting after the quarterback. You might be used to going straight through high school tackles. You might be used to run around high school guards and high school tackles. We get to this level, especially at the Power 5 level, and these guys are just as big as you, if not bigger, dancing bears who you can't just bull rush straight back. You can't just run around. You have to use your technique. You have to set up your moves. So that's something where I really think Najee could take another step in learning from Coach JT. I could really see him doing very, very well in that aspect, okay? 2 other guys. You want to talk about the most disrespected recruit of all time? You got to have a conversation about Ruben Hurricane Bain, Mark. This guy's sack total makes a bunch of people have to keep refreshing 247 to see if it was a typo. Okay, guy almost touched 100 sacks in 2.5 seasons. It's just like he did what now? 30 sacks, 29 sacks. He finds a way to get to the quarterback. He finds a way to get to the quarterback. Now, it's used against him that he's 6'2". It's used against him that he has a little bit of kind of a 3 technique body with, really big thighs and legs and built from the waist down, and not your slender 6'6", 215-pound, wiry wide receiver look, but he plays defense end. And I think that's used against Ruben Bain. What's also used against Ruben Bain is the fact that he's from Miami, and the offensive linemen down there are not the best. But again, I've talked at nauseam about his matchup with Francis Marigoa. I've talked about his matchup when he went to the Under Armour All-America game, and he did very, 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 very well in those matchups. So I think Ruben Bain will not only do well as an edge rusher, him coming in as a three technique on some downs and getting out the guards and things of that nature will be great for him. But he is an edge. We're not going to disrespect him by that, but he is an edge rusher. Okay, top 100 player in the country. As you can see, number 16 in the state of Florida, number 10 edge rusher in the country. But if he happened to be 6'4" mark, he would have been probably the number one player in the country with the statistics that he has. Looks like you were trying to hop in there. Go ahead.
Well, just that, uh, I remember when he committed and was signed, and then before I pulled up the banner and put in the recruiting rankings, and you said he was disrespected, and then I threw up number 70 in the nation. He's still close to a 5-star.
Yeah, but again, Mark, I would say this: the only thing that stops him from being a 5-star is that he happened to be playing in Miami and that he's 6'2". If a young man, let's say, for example, if you didn't read that name, height, and location, and I told you this man had 60 sacks in 2 years, what would you say his ranking at defensive end edge rusher would be?
Well, I would want to know who he was playing against. That would be my first
That's a
question.
great rebuttal. Because, Mark, there's people in Massachusetts, there's people in the Dakotas, there's people in Wyoming that don't put up numbers like that. So what
Sure.
stopped him from being that? There's people who play NAIA ball, D3 ball. There's D1 bounce backs. There's JUCO guys that come from Ohio State down and don't, or Georgia down and don't put up numbers like that. What held him lower than everyone else was the fact that you look at him and he doesn't really look like an edge rusher. You look at his measurements and he's 6'2" and a half. And he also plays against Florida, more specifically, South Florida offensive linemen. So again, we talked about this with Cam Kinchins. If he goes out there and plays a really good freshman year, has an All-American sophomore year, it won't matter what his ranking was. But I threw that in there because we were talking about the disrespect, and it just comes to mind what would happen, if he happened to be just 2 legit inches taller. I can only imagine what he would be as far as maybe number 1, number 2, number 3 player in the entire country, not just regardless of position. With 60 sacks as a junior and a senior. So, it is what it
is. Okay. Are we done with the ends? Or are we getting to the older
Oh
guys?
no, I got a couple more players to go. All right. So now let's talk about Messidor. Let's talk about I want to talk about some guys that are still doing well as opposed to get into the kind of guys I'm a little disappointed in. Akeem Messidor kind of jumped out of nowhere. 6'3", so that's 280 pounder, a little bit of a bigger DN. We'll talk about that again with Ruben Bain, a little bit of a bigger guy. Definitely didn't expect what we got. Honestly, I mean, statistically, he was one of the better edge rushers in a conference and almost in all of college football. He just happened to be on a really bad team, and it didn't really stand out. I mean, 7 sacks, yeah, but he had 4-sack game against a really bad Virginia Tech team. But treat a scrub like a scrub, make plays out there. Okay, he flashed a little bit every now and again. He made a play or two in almost every game except for the bad stretch, Tallahassee and Pitt, where it just looked like we didn't want to play football. I'm very, very interested to see how they're going to get him as far as standing up, because he comes from West Virginia where they were running a 3-4 and this guy was playing like a 4-eye technique. Then he comes to Miami, gets a chance to play the 5. Now we have these stand-up DNs, and I just don't know what he's going to do in that aspect. I know he's always shunned away from being moved inside. He doesn't want to be moved inside. He wants to stay off the edge. So, again, we're going to go through spring practice and see what happens for a guy like Hakeem Messidor. And another guy who doesn't really get a lot of talking about is Jabari Ismail. He is the son of a strength and conditioning coach at Miami. I don't really know what he'll contribute here in his career, but the size of a 6'5", 250-pounder. He's been in the weight room and working his behind off, and we'll see what happens with him. Okay, we'll see. But a guy I really want to see talked about more. And he was the H1H recruit of this past class. Do you remember who that was, Mark? Edge rusher. No.
I don't.
Jaden Wayne, originally from, I think it was Washington. I think it's from Washington. Now he plays for IMG Academy. Played for Miami. He's at Miami now, but played for IMG Academy. My favorite recruit. I mean, I was very skeptical, and I'll be honest with you. I was very skeptical because his film was him playing receiver and tight end and all that kind of stuff, right? But then I watched his senior tape, Mark, and he put on really, really, really good weight at IMG Academy. And he showed me something against that level of competition. He showed me that he could not only just run around and just fly off the ball and do the quick swim over and strip sack and scoop and score. He didn't just show that. He showed he could attack the edges. He could contain. He could loop around on those TE stunts and those ET stunts. He could take on double teams. He could take on pull. He could take on tight ends, wham blocks. He showed me the run support. And that was my only big question about Jaden Wayne. Could he stop the run? And he showed me. He showed me, man. He showed me a lot. I was very, very, very proud of his senior film of Jaden Wayne. Again, high school. Now, taking that to Miami. Again, he's going to have to do it against grown men at the Power 5 level. He's going to have to do it against the Tallahassee offensive tackles, Virginia Tech offensive tackles, Texas A&M offensive tackles. So he'll get a chance to get out there and see what he can do. But as far as giving some people their roses and their praise, for me, I'm really, really, really excited about Jaden Wayne. Okay. Now I got to get into Chance Williams. Okay. Now Chance Williams came to Miami as a borderline 5-star like a couple years back, and things have been kind of back and forth with Chance Williams. He flashed a little bit as a freshman in 2021. Didn't have the biggest statistical season in 2022, and even towards the end of 2021, didn't really jump off the screen too much. I want to be very careful because I don't want to come off as bashing a young man because players don't deserve that. But what I am saying is that I'm hoping he could take another step um, and really give us something off that edge. I mean, this is not it. But again, you talk about being on a bad team. You talk about snaps. How many snaps do you give out? Miami goes out there and plays 6 snaps and gives up an 80-yard bomb. How many young men get a chance to rotate in there? When you're winning games or you're scoring points, then we get to really rotate that defensive line and rush the passer. And those are things that we did not do last year. So, again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Chance Williams or any player that I'm a little critical of that wears the orange and green because they're still human. They're still people. They're still players that can improve themselves, and their career is not over just yet. But I would love to see more out of Chance Williams. He was a very highly sought after player coming out of high school. Chose Miami for reasons. He chose Miami, and he's a nice return on investment. Had a sack and a half against Alabama in 2021. So there's something that he flashed there uh, in that game. It's just I haven't really seen that since that nice stretch there. So that's my breakdown on the edge rushers. I'm excited about where they're going to go in for Coach JT when it comes to Miami Hurricanes edge rushers. One thing I do love is that you go down and you look at this, and it 6'4", 6'6", 6'3", 6'5", 6'5", 6'5", 6'4", 6'2". We're finally getting some size out there, Mark. And that's a big thing, man. I understand the anomalies of your 6-foot linebacker or your 6'1" DN and your 6'1" D tackle. But there's a reason why you can only name 2 6'1" D tackles historically: Aaron Donald and Johnny Randall. There's been dozens of people who have played the position, hundreds who have played that position sub 6'3". But you want guys with that size. Um, Jafar Harvey coming back for another season? Michael Davis, please correct. Please, Michael. Jafar Harvey is playing another season for Miami? Warren Sapp ain't no 6'2". Warren Sapp is 6'4", sir. Warren Sapp 6'2". Warren Sapp was a 6'4" tight end prospect at Miami. Signed at Miami at 6'4", 235 pounds. Warren Sapp was 6'2".
Wholesome one.
Please.
Since you started at D end with youth and high ceiling, big talent, I'm going to
Mhm.
make a guess that if you take the same approach inside, you're going Leonard Taylor.
I am. I am. But Mark, before we go over the D tackle, I
Oh,
got to make sure if this is true about Jafar Harvey, I didn't know he was coming back. Please forgive me, y'all. If I thought he was done, I thought this was his
okay.
last
I thought you
season.
were I thought you were mocking Mr. Davis there.
No, oh Lord. Okay. All right. Well, Thomas Davis was in the transfer portal, y'all. So I don't know if he's still on Miami roster. I don't really. Okay, I'll just say this: if Jafar Harvey gets a chance to be coached up again for his 15th year at the University of Miami, playing defense in at Miami, year 15, working on his second doctorate degree from the University of Miami. I'm excited about that. That's good for him. I really thought this was his last season, though. I could be wrong. Either way, y'all go back and say, "Oh, Wholesome don't know what he talking about." How do you not know? That's ill prepared. That's
Can't know
professional.
everything.
I'm sorry. I genuinely thought that Jafari Harvey was done. Okay, well, he's playing again. Okay, good. Hopefully, he can really step up, man. Again, when it comes to the defensive end position and rushing the passer, period, you got to be on teams that score points for the most part. There's a reason why Von Miller left the Broncos and went to the Rams. Okay, there's a reason why these edge rushers like to go. Um, you might want to look at the fact that these edge rushers go to certain places because they can get after the quarterback, man. They can get after the quarterback in a high scoring affair. Okay, high scoring, high scoring. Anyway, um, yeah, Thomas Davis. I don't really, hopefully he gets a great spring and stays healthy. That's what I have to say about that. Defensive tackle, Mark. You let me up. You chalked it up. Defensive tackle, right? Leonard Taylor. There's no way in the world, this young man has all the talent in the world, Mark. The size, the ability. And it's just like he flashes like the Virginia game. He flashes like one or two plays from Texas A&M and then just goes missing. Now that's a tough thing to do is to get a young man to play consistently, especially when you know they have all the intangibles to be that man. Okay. I really hope that he could hone his skills. I know that last year under Coach Kevin Steele, they really wanted them to engage in first man the line of scrimmage, then disengage. And LT really fought back and forth with that because Mark, what he likes to do is shoot gaps. He just go, hey, I'm reading stretch. This guard can't hang with me. I'm just gonna go. And that would work well sometimes and work against him sometimes because he would get read. Sometimes they would do a read option on him, and other chances he'll shoot back there, he'll knife back there, get his hand on him, and miss him. Or at times when we were playing such a great scheme where if everybody does their job like Texas A&M, and then he had just made the play before that. He beat the guard again with quickness, Mark, but again, he misses the tackle. And now there's nobody there. And the running back goes, for a 20, 30-yard gain because there was nobody else there because LT did his own thing. Now, when it works, it works. And when it doesn't, it resulted in a big play. Now, in this Coach Guidry scheme, I wonder if he could continue to be a gap shooter. The last guy we watched do that on a consistent basis was RJ McIntosh. I would also bring up, I'm having a blank here. Number 9, defensive tackle, Gerald Willis. I would think about bringing up Gerald Willis in that one too. But for the most part, you want to talk about somebody that really just shot gaps and quick swim over the top? over guards, went toe to toe with one of the best guards in NFL. Um, and Nelson out of Notre Dame, who's now the Colts, and he's like the consistent best guard in football. And they had a great battle, and it was because of what McIntosh would do. He would just, yeah, he's 6'4", 280, but instead of sitting here and trying to play bully ball with you, I'm gonna use my quickness, my lateral movement. I know that I can bounce out and back inside. I can rip in you. I can swim right over you while you're just trying to maul me off the ball. And now you're just eating grass off the ground because I just keep going right over top. I think Leonard Taylor can be the same caliber of young man if we just let him loose. Again, the tough part about that is the other guys got to try to make up for that, Mark. Okay, if we got one guy, I talk about this as a Mike linebacker. If I got a guy who I know just wants to do his own thing, then I have to make sure I go opposite, right? So let's say, for example, we got one where he's supposed to loop to the A, and my gap is the B, okay? Because we gap exchange, Mike linebackers and D tackles, right? Well, let's say he's supposed to go A, but he decides to head bob A and club swim back over into the B, and now we're both standing in the B. Now I got to try to scoot back over to the A to get in my gap, as opposed to reading him and knowing, hey, I got a monster in front of me. Wherever you go, I'm going to go opposite. I got you. I'm going to make you right because coach ain't going to yell at both of us for being in the B gap. I'm going to make sure I get over to the A. I'll make sure I get over wherever if you're not there. So you got to have that connection with your linebacker. But I'm really hoping at the point of attack, Leonard Taylor really steps up in that aspect of things, and of course, completely getting rid of guards and tackles. Okay, there were times I've seen tackles step down on him, and he didn't really take that well, or if a guard got good hands on him, but he was young. Okay, he's going into year 3 now. Hopefully, really getting his grown man strength and leverage and IQ and all that there. So, I really think that Leonard Taylor can really do some big things for Miami at that defensive tackle position, and we can't wait to see it turn out. What about you, Mark? Leonard Taylor's flashed a little bit for you too. What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, basically, I wondered early, and again, you know, you have coaching background,
Mm-hmm.
you have playing background at a higher level than I do. You know so especially when you're turning on, so you have those two things over me. Then on top of that, if you're watching a Miami game, like I know who the players are. You know what to look for. You know their individual games. But I mentioned to you, I think at the time that I'm watching the game like most people watch the game that have a level of football knowledge. So I'm looking for certain things, but I'm watching the game like you watch the game, and I'm thinking of Virginia in particular, and like somebody really has to be devastating and really has to flash and really has to be beating the guy in front of him. And it's not just always a tackle for loss kind of play where it's
Mm-hmm.
obvious, okay, somebody made a great play, they beat their man, tackle for loss. No, it was sometimes the play went away from him. Sometimes there was no stat
Mm-hmm.
uh to back it up. It was just I could just see he just showed. And then that next week, talking to you, talking to Cam, finding out, okay, where's he been? Did he just show up in this game? No, he's not getting enough reps. He's he's not getting enough play. That that's that's when I remember him first catching my eye. And of course, I knew the name, and we had talked about when he signed, and I was ready to see him play at that level, but it was noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about D tackles really jump off the screen. They're really close to the quarterback. Edge rushers, everybody talks about how edge rushers can bend that corner. Yes, but the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And when you're that close, if you, again, Mark, I'm telling you, you club swim right over that center guard, the running back and quarterback is literally standing right there. You don't have to really go around too many other people if you're right up the gut. And as of late, of course, you had Warren Sapp and you've had some Aaron Donald, recent Johnny Randall defensive tackles that have really gotten after the quarterback. But finding and trying to refine the new Warren Sapp and rush up the gut is a big thing. Leonard Taylor could do it. I literally think Leonard Taylor could be a 8 to 10 sack guy at defensive tackle. I don't think that can be that's not a shocker. Now, allowing him to be that, putting him in position to do that, that's something different. Okay, if you got a young man who's worried about, man, I don't want to lose playing time because although I made that play, I might get a minus because I didn't attack the veer of the neck properly and I didn't grab the inside of it. And I didn't have my perfect hand placement and I didn't play with perfect leverage. So coach going to pull me out for 5 plays because I didn't do my job specifically, although I made the play. Listen, there's coaches out there like that. I personally know coaches like that who, well, I don't like my D tackles to work spin moves, and you keep doing spin moves. So, yeah, your snaps coming down this week. There's people like that in the world. There really are. Anyway, I really like what he brings to the table. Now, defensive tackle has been a big thing. We've been trying to find holes at that with Thomas Gore, transfer defensive tackle. Brent St. Dean, transfer defensive tackle. Okay, I don't really have much on those guys. They played at different places, Jackson State, Georgia State. So I don't really have much on those guys. But I will say this. A player that we've been waiting to get healthy, waiting to flash, waiting to be all that he's been hyped up to be when he was a defensive end prospect turned defensive tackle is Jared Harrison Hunt, man. It's time. It's time to show up. 81 has been playing here since 2020. Remember when 81 was flashing in 2020? We all were like, when we going to get 81 some more snaps? He get out there, he make a play. Everybody want to see 81 get out there. And I don't really know if he's been very consistent since then. Getting after the quarterback and really gets disengagement and getting in the backfield and getting TFLs. Okay. You got over 100 snaps. Okay, 16 tackles, 4 TFLs, and 2 sacks ain't cutting it. And again, I'm not saying that anybody else on the defensive line is doing so much better at defensive tackle, but this was one of the worst defensive tackle, in my opinion, one of the worst defensive tackle years this previous year at the University of Miami. Except for like 2012, we had guys like Corey King and guys like that out there. But guys that we know can do it, guys that have the length and have the ability, have the size, have the intangibles, have shown it in the past, they didn't really show up this year. So I'm hoping that the light comes on and that things change for them this spring. Now, I do know injury has played a part in Jared Harrison Hunt's career at Miami. And again, I try to be very, very careful in how I articulate it because I want it to be based on football. Not saying he's a bad person or that he's soft or that he's weak. None of that kind of stuff. Not saying that. What I am saying is it's time to put up some stats. Okay, we want to change our families' lives. We want to play on Sundays. There's a certain level that you must play at this level. You must show them something. Gerald Willis went undrafted and he had an All-American season. RJ McIntosh had the best defensive tackle season at Miami at that point in over a decade. He went in the 4th round. Okay. Kendrick Norton, who had to, get the big injury because he cut off his arm in the accident. He was one of the better 0 techniques / 1 techniques in recent Miami history. He was a 7th rounder. Okay, so we have to make sure we start to produce at this level, and the position of defensive tackle is big for Miami. Big. But now, a guy who I think I didn't bring him up in the defensive end. So now I want to talk about him as a defensive tackle. And that is a guy who's, pushing 6'7", 260 pounds. Now, unfortunately, he is on campus. Perfect. And that is Collins Achiambong. I rarely I rarely get too hyped about young guys. A lot of people think he could be the next Greg Rousseau as a 6'7", 6'8" edge rusher. But I personally think we got a chance right now because he came in pushing 250 mark. He could easily be on the other end of 280 by the end. Easily. Okay. I think we got a chance with that size and a 7-foot wingspan. We have a chance at a guy like a Chris Jones, defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs out of Mississippi State. We have a chance for a guy like Fletcher Cox, who's on that 6'4", 6'5", 300-pound range. I really think we have a chance with a guy like that at as Collins Achiam Punk. Again, I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. Um, if he wants to be an edge rusher, please give him that opportunity to do so and play the edge rush position if that's what he would like. But for me, in my eyes, what I think he can be a vicious one technique, man. I mean, Mark, there's a guy who played at Miami. Well, man, 15 years ago now, 12 years ago now, by the name of Calais Campbell.
Mhm.
He was a defensive end guy at Miami. Played at like 230, 240. Gets to the NFL. Now he's 6'8", legit 6'8", not like 6'6" and like build at 6'8". Nah, he got to the combine and they're like, wow, this guy is 6'8". Okay, gotcha. Has a pretty solid, nice career with the Cardinals. Has a big boom in his career with the Jaguars and now plays for my Baltimore Ravens and is doing pretty well, right? Again, just saying he's 6'8", 308 pounds. He carries it well. I mean, he carries it like it's 260. But when you have that kind of frame and you have that kind of arm length, I think you do yourself a great favor being that close to the quarterback as a 3 technique or 2-eye technique, as opposed to trying to find him off the edge, where I believe the way he carries his body type, he'll be very, very athletic against these guards, where I think he could have a great, great career as a defensive tackle. When I'm talking about Collins and Cheatham Punk. So that's the reason why I had not brought him up in the defensive end edge rush part of it. I brought him up in a defensive tackle because for me, in my eyes, I envision him as a very, very stellar defensive tackle for Miami. Maybe not in 23, Mark, maybe not even in 24, but I think maybe in 2025 and on, I think he do very, very well at D tackle.
Okay. Anyone else at D tackle?
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Beautiful.
Nope. Nope.
All right.
Well, we had some great questions in here, y'all. Hopefully, Mark. I don't know if you got to go. I don't know. I don't know your time frame, but got some
Yeah.
questions in
Same.
there. You got to go.
Uh, yeah. In the next 5.
Okay. 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 I don't know if you want to scan and see if there's some questions in there. I know some people re-put a bunch of questions over and over in there. See some Tallahassee people in there. Thank you for coming and watching the show. I hope your team goes 0-12 next year. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
What do we have here? Uh, if you see anything, jump on it. I don't.
Okay. I have no problem going through it and just giving some quick answers. Okay. H1H the Goats. Thank you, man. That means a lot. Blessings. Thank you. Wholesome one. What class is the great defensive line from quote unquote the crib that you talked about last summer? I mean, I clarify that one for me, please. Why is Messidor being disrespected so much for Michael Davis? Michael, I think that Messidor is being quote unquote disrespected because he played for a 5-7 team. If he was on a 10-3 team, if he was on a 9-4 team, he would be a lot more respected. But 7 sacks is something. 7 sacks isn't something that's greatly spectacular. And the best thing you want to do is keep adding to that. Okay, if he can have another 7, 8, 9 sack season, he could do very, very well moving forward. Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all, about Harvey and Thomas Davis. I really thought that Harvey was out of here. So, man, I apologize about that. And Gage, I answered your question about Achiampong um, moving into defensive tackle when I addressed that one. Okay. Would be cool to hear H1's opinion about Coach Prime preferring D-line prospects coming from hard times. You know, I just think a bunch of people, when you're a polarizing figure and people want to hear what you have to say about certain things, Coach Prime, not me. I'm just Coach Holloway. I'm nothing. I'm just a guy. But Coach Prime, to be honest with you, um, I think that he was basically just saying he wanted some dogs and some go-getters. I don't think that he really meant to be a classist and attack certain. I don't think that's where people were going with that. So, but thank you for your question, man. Tallahassee National Championship or fail. What's UM's expectations since we so broke? How many wins Miami this year? Uh, okay, great grammar. Irvin Williams. I see why you're a fan of that school. Probably an alumni too with that kind of grammar. But anyhow, man, I hope that Miami can get to 7, 8, maybe. I don't. I definitely think the whole time of us as Miami Hurricanes YouTubers doing the whole 10-2, 9-3 thing. It's until we start to see some production, and we say this every year. We say this every year, but we're down right now. Wait till we get excited again, and the players look nice in uniform. And we see the spring, but I really think a lot of us after last year were able to eat a bunch of humble pie that we haven't had to eat in a while. That we should have just kept humble the whole time. But we were excited about Coach Cristobal and the whole staff we had last year. So, again, it's been great covering Miami football today with Mark Rogers TV, going over some defensive linemen for Miami. If I missed anybody, I do apologize. I know I didn't get a chance to talk about Anthony Moulton's little brother. But again, he's a freshman, so I hope he has a really, really good season for Miami, but I know he has a lot in his future. So I do apologize for not bringing him up. But I've talked about most of the guys that will be contributors for Miami, especially starters and returning starters. And we all make mistakes, so I can't remember everybody and
Doesn't
every
bother
single
me.
player on the roster. So
Hey,
I
you're
appreciate
you're
it.
99+% on the mark, so that meets my standard, that's for sure.
There it is.
Absolutely. And when it comes to predictions, uh, I just don't want to hear the backlash from Miami fans like I have for the last maybe 4 years. I'm just throwing out a record, folks. This is not a prediction. Let's say once we get to prediction time, I say 7-5.
Whew,
I know what I'm
I'll
going to
be
hear.
happy.
If I throw out 7-5, I'm going to hear it from all sorts of people that I'm disrespecting Miami. Well, consider this. Last year, picked Miami to go 8-4.
I was gonna say I think you said 8-4, and we
They
all
went
were like,
5-7.
"What, Mark?
Yeah,
You
people went
disrespectful,
crazy. They're
Mark?" And
ten and two. They got Mario Cristobal. They're going at least 10-2. So I got hammered for 8-4. They go 5-7. The year before,
Boy, he loved
Manny
taking them
Diaz last
jabs.
year. I picked him to go 9-3, and they went 7-5. The COVID year, I picked him 8-4. Well, regular season, I picked him 8-3. They had only 11 games scheduled that year. I picked him 8-3. They went 8-3. Then I can only remember one year before that was the 6-7 year that they lost to Louisiana Tech in the bowl game. So they went 6-6 regular season. I picked him 8-4, and I got slammed that year. So I have
Yeah.
picked them 2 to 3 games above their win total every year, and I take abuse that I'm disrespecting them every year.
Hey, well, Mark, you know what I would say? At least we're active. Excuse me. At least the Miami Hurricanes fan base is active and
Oh,
hitting the
absolutely.
comment section and watching and hitting that like button or dislike button and getting it out there and sharing it in the groups. You wouldn't believe what Mark Rogers said about us. How about all 1,000 of us go comment negative comments on do it? Trust me, it's great
Yes.
for YouTube.
Yes, please do it.
But
Yes.
the biggest thing that we want to do, uh, that Miami should want to do, is our fans. And the fans are going to be fans, but those of
Sure.
us in the media. I mean, Cam has always been kind of humble in his. I don't think he's really bowled out his chest. 'Cause I think last year he even said he thought there were a couple holes on the roster. I was blinded, because this was the guy who I wanted, and this was the staff and the recruiting. So I was on a 10-2, 11-1 tilt, things of that nature. But you know, again, this roster I still think isn't elite yet by any means, but sometimes you can run a certain scheme that'll help you. And then sometimes you have 2017 where you weren't really that great, but you happen to get some turnovers or bounce the ball plays and some nice wins, a nice clutch field goal, a Hail Mary play against Tallahassee to break the streak. And you kind of ride some momentum. So you just never know. You just never know what happens there. So in this game, that's why you go out there and you play the 60 minutes, Mark, because you never know. You play the 60 minutes.
I will say two things about my Miami followers here. Number one, I will say that, and the wholesome one knows exactly what video I'm talking about. I posted a video about 2 years ago where I blasted Miami football post like 2004 or five. And I laid out all the numbers. I didn't just sit here and rant and rave, just go on a
That's what it
rant.
felt like.
Like I put the numbers out there. No top 10 finishes. Here are the 43 teams that have had top 10 finishes since the last time Miami. And there were some schools in there that you wouldn't want to be associated with. And da 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 da. And I compared the record to the likes of Georgia Tech and Kansas State and a lot of schools that you wouldn't want to be compared to, but you don't have as good a record as they do in the last 15 years. I railed on Miami, and I expected a huge backlash. People were extremely respectful. They said, "You laid out the facts. That's all the truth." I probably got 10%
Of what you expected.
abuse and like
Well, I mean,
90% support to say, "Hey, we respect it. You laid it out there. You're absolutely right. That's what it is."
it is what it is. I mean, you laid it out. I was upset and it hurt to hear, but you know what they say. Something about the truth. It hurts. It really, really hurts. A blatant lie you can kind of laugh off. Like, come on, man, that's not true. But when it's the truth, it digs deep and it hurts. Or when you got cheated, when you truly felt like you had a chance to win a game and
Sure.
a
Yeah.
flag cost you a championship, or things of that nature that could really hurt you. But it's about what you do after that. It would be completely different if you go win 10 games for the next 10 years after losing that championship game and put yourself in position and hire the right coaches and recruit the right guys and build the right culture. Then yeah, we would complain about that, but we would say, hey, what about the '06 championship or the '08 game? But we don't have that because we hold on to that 2003 national championship because it was the last time we were a great, great football team, and it was a hurtful ending. We haven't seen anything close to that since, so we have nothing to compare it to. So
So that's the first thing I'll say about Miami fans that follow my channel. And the second thing that I will say is that um, at certain times, I will have other channels. Ohio State and Michigan will be the only two that will spike above this channel. But consistently, this channel and the subscribers and the viewers on this channel support this channel better than any other channel.
yeah, well, you know what? I will say that's a great feat for us. It's a great feat for Miami because being a small private school in Coral Gables, or being a monumentally 100,000 student school in Ann Arbor or Columbus, so to be in conversation with those kind of programs is big. I mean, some of those Big Ten schools are like 80,000 students, including Miami's graduate undergraduate and online, they're about 15K. So that's some people's senior class. That's like the graduating class of the communication school at Ohio State. 15,000 people graduated from the communication school, and probably a whole year after the two graduate classes together of spring of so and so and fall of so and so. So it's been great. I hope that Miami can continue to build on something. And this is something that people have been saying, Mark. If TCU can do it, why not Miami?
Oh, absolutely.
Why not?
And a 12-team playoffs coming in 2 years.
Oh man, you definitely don't want to start missing that too many times either, because then that just looks bad. Man, we can't be top 12, but that's a whole nother conversation for another live, because I could get 30 minutes into the fact that it's not going to be the 12 team, the top 12. Okay, it's going to be Alabama at 9-3 that creeps in there. It's going to be your Georgia that stumbles against South Carolina that creeps in there.
It's going to be the top 12 in the ranking. Well, it's going to be the top 11 for sure, and it's going to be a group of 5 champion who could be in the top 12.
We hope so. We hope so. A bunch of Tallahassee people in here today. Thank you all. Thank you all for the view. Thank you all for coming in and saying something. I know Miami fans go on that show.
Yeah.
And talk a bunch of trash, and you all have been very respectful tonight. So I will say thank you all for the view. Thank you all for showing the respect and not really coming in to bash or say anything about my hairline or my hair or anything like that. So I appreciate that. It is what it is. So we appreciate the view, the comment. You will always be Tallahassee to me, and I hope your team sucks. Have a great day. Go Canes.
And I will remind everyone, since we've got these Tallahassee people here, Wednesday at 6 Eastern, you can go over and catch our Florida State show on the Florida State channel. Wednesday at 6 Eastern. All right. Next show. We usually do West Virginia on Friday night. However, the West Virginia show has been moved to Sunday at 8 Eastern. Oklahoma live Friday, 3 Eastern in the afternoon. 3 in the afternoon, Oklahoma live. Join us for that on our Oklahoma channel right here at the Voice of College Football. See you guys next time. Appreciate it.